They say when you're about to die, your whole life flashes before your eyes. Mine didn't. All I could see was the red glow of my phone screen lighting up the dark bedroom. Another message. Another one I shouldn't have read but did anyway. Unknown number, you look so pretty in red. Keep wearing it for me. My stomach dropped. I wasn't wearing red tonight. I was wearing grey sweatpants, an oversized hoodie, and socks with holes in them. But I knew what he meant. Yesterday I had been in red, an old sundress I'd pulled out of the back of my closet, thinking no one would notice on my quick walk to the grocery store. But someone had. I stumbled back against my headboard, clutching the phone so hard my hand ached. My apartment was small, barely 3 rooms, but suddenly it felt like a labyrinth of shadows. The curtains I thought were closed, weren't. A sliver of the street light leaked through, just enough to remind me I wasn't alone. The worst part? I could feel it. That crawling sensation on the back of my neck that told me eyes were on me, even if I couldn't see them. I grabbed the baseball bat my brother had given me years ago as a joke. "For creeps," he'd said, laughing. If only he knew. Another buzz. My throat tightened. Unknown number, left your light on in the kitchen. Be careful, babe. Someone could get in. The bat slipped from my sweaty palms and clattered to the floor. He wasn't just watching me. He was close. I tried to call the police once, months ago, when the first notes started showing up. Scribbled things left on my windshield, tucked under my doormat. They told me to block the number. To document everything. But you can't document fear. You can't file the way your heart races at every shadow, or the way you wake up at 3 a.m. convinced someone's breathing beside you. I was shaking so badly I thought I might vomit when the phone lit again. Unknown number, don't scream. I'm right outside. That was when something inside me broke. Not just fear, fury. How dare he turn my home into a prison? How dare he make me afraid of my own life? My thumb hovered over 911 when a new sound cut through the silence. A low, heavy thud against my door. Then another. Deliberate. Measured. I froze, bat clutched again, breath strangled in my throat. Then I heard it, a growl. Low. Deep. Animal. It rattled through the wood of the door, vibrating straight into my chest. My hand flew to my mouth to keep from screaming. Because in that moment, I didn't know what terrified me more. The stalker waiting outside. Or whatever was growling back at him. And before the story continues, tell me, where are you watching from tonight? Drop your country in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to Sharon's Feral Fantasies so you never miss the next wild chapter. Chapter 1. The morning after the texts, I didn't recognize the face in the mirror. Eyes red-rimmed from another night without sleep. Cheeks pale. Hair knotted like I'd been in a fight, though the only fight was with my own fear. I splashed water over my face and pressed my palms to the sink, forcing myself to breathe. Just breathe. I told myself the same thing last night when the banging started, when that sound, that inhuman growl, slid under my door and into my bones. I didn't open it. I didn't look. I just sat in my living room with the bat across my lap, knees pulled to my chest, until dawn painted the sky gray. No cops. No rescue. No answers. Just me. Alone. Again. Except I wasn't doing this alone anymore. I scrolled through my phone with shaking hands, staring at the email I'd written at 3 in the morning. The subject line was embarrassingly blunt. I need protection. I'd sent it to the one agency my brother had insisted on after the last time I called him sobbing. Hire someone, Grace, he'd said, his voice firm. You're strong, but you don't have to fight this creep alone. Get a professional. So I did. Or I tried. My phone buzzed with a new notification. Ironclad Security, your request has been approved. Agent assigned, Logan Hale. Will meet you today, 12 p.m., at your apartment. Logan Hale. The name alone felt solid, unshakable. Exactly what I needed. Except as noon crept closer, my nerves spun tighter. My apartment looked pitiful, like the den of someone who'd lost control. Curtains double-pinned, furniture shoved against windows, a baseball bat leaning against every doorway. I wondered what he'd think of me. A knock rattled the door. I jumped so hard I nearly dropped the mug of coffee I'd been clinging to like a lifeline. My heart thundered, dragging me straight back to last night. To the texts. To the banging. To that growl. Another knock, this one firm but not violent. Grace Miller. A voice, low and steady. Masculine. Confident. It's Logan Hale. From Ironclad Security. I hesitated, every survival instinct screaming at me to double-check. Show me your ID through the peephole, I called, gripping the bat tighter. There was a pause. Then a hand appeared, holding up a leather wallet with a laminated card. The photo showed a man with short dark hair, square jaw, eyes shadowed in seriousness. Logan Hale, Senior Protection Agent. I unlatched the door with trembling fingers. And there he was. He was taller than I expected. Broad shoulders under a black jacket, the kind of build that made you instinctively step back even when he hadn't moved toward you. His hair was darker in person, cropped close, and his eyes, amber brown, sharp, scanning me and my space in one sweep like he could catalog every risk in seconds. But it wasn't his size that made me pause. It was the way he carried himself. Still. Controlled. Like every muscle was leashed, but ready to strike at the smallest threat. Ms. Miller. His voice was calm, but it carried an authority that made me straighten despite myself. Yes. Grace. Please, come in. He stepped inside, and suddenly my tiny apartment felt even smaller. He didn't waste time. His gaze flicked to the windows, the locks, the clutter of bats in each doorway. He didn't comment. He just noticed. Finally, his eyes settled on me. You asked for protection. Tell me everything. The words cracked something inside me. I wanted to hold it together, to play the strong, independent woman who didn't need saving. But the moment his steady gaze met mine, the truth spilled out. The texts. The notes. He knows what I wear, where I go. Last night my throat tightened. He was outside. I heard him. I hesitated, the memory of that growl catching in my chest. Something. Logan didn't interrupt. He didn't scoff or say I was imagining things like the cops had. He just listened, his expression unreadable, his body leaning slightly forward like every detail mattered. When I finally ran out of words, silence hung between us. My chest heaved, my coffee sat cold on the counter, and Logan's eyes were steady as stone. You did the right thing calling us, he said finally. His voice was low, reassuring but firm, like a lock sliding into place. You're not alone anymore, Grace. He won't get to you. Not while I'm here. The way he said it, like a vow, made the fear in my chest shift, just a little, into something else. Hope. I nodded, hugging myself. So, what now? Logan's jaw ticked as his gaze moved back to the door. Now, I stay. 24 hours a day if needed. Until this man is caught, or until he realizes he picked the wrong woman to mess with. Something in his tone sent a shiver down my spine. Because for the first time since this nightmare began, I believed it. Chapter 2. The first thing I noticed about Logan Hale was how still he could be. Most men his size filled a room with noise, the creak of leather, heavy steps, the scrape of a chair. Not him. He sat on the edge of my couch like he'd been carved out of stone, eyes on the window, his body an unmoving wall between me and whatever was outside. It should have made me more nervous, having a stranger in my apartment. But instead, I felt something I hadn't in months. Safer. Not safe. Not yet. But safer. I hovered in the kitchen, clutching a glass of water I didn't drink. So, do you always do this? Logan's head tilted slightly, his gaze flicking to me before returning to the window. Do what? Sit there like a guard dog, I said before I could stop myself. My cheeks burned. For a split second, his mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, but something close. That's the job. Right. I set the glass down, the sound too loud in the quiet. Sorry. Obviously I've never had a bodyguard before. You don't need to apologize, he said evenly. You're adjusting. That's normal. Adjusting. That was one way to put it. Another would be unraveling. Because now that he was here, the reality of it hit me all over again. I needed protection. From someone I didn't even know. I wrapped my arms around myself and sat in the armchair across from him. The air between us felt charged, not just with danger, but something else I didn't want to name yet. The hours dragged. Darkness pressed against the windows, thicker than usual, like the night itself wanted in. Every time a car passed or the building creaked, my pulse jumped. But Logan didn't move. His eyes tracked shadows, his breath slow, measured. Around midnight, I couldn't take the silence anymore. Why did you pick this job? His gaze flicked to me again. In the dim light, his eyes looked darker, almost golden. It wasn't really a choice. Some people are built for protecting others. That's who I am. Built for protecting. The words wrapped around me like a blanket, even as I wondered what kind of man said that like it was a fact of his existence. Before I could respond, a sound shattered the quiet. Thunk. Both our heads snapped toward the door. My blood ran cold. Another thunk. Like something hitting the hallway wall. Logan was on his feet in a heartbeat, moving so fast I barely saw him rise. He motioned for me to stay put, his hand hovering near the small of his back where I realized he carried a weapon. Stay here, he murmured. My breath caught. Wait. But he was already at the door, every movement precise, silent. He pressed his ear to the wood, listening. Then, in one swift motion, he cracked it open and slipped into the hall. I sat frozen, nails digging into the armchair. The seconds stretched like hours. All I could hear was the pounding of my heart. Then another sound. Low. A growl. The same sound I'd heard last night. It vibrated through the floor, too deep to be human, too sharp to be the pipes or a neighbor's dog. My chest tightened. My body screamed not again. The door swung open. Logan re-entered, his expression unreadable, though I saw the tension in his jaw. What was it? My voice was barely a whisper. Nothing we need to worry about tonight. That wasn't an answer. I sat forward. Don't lie to me. I heard it. I heard the same sound last night. Logan's eyes met mine, and for the first time, I saw something flicker there. Not fear exactly, but restraint. Like he was holding something back. I won't let anything touch you, he said, his tone final. Not nothing's there. Not you imagined it. Just that he wouldn't let it reach me. My hands shook in my lap. You make it sound like there's something out there that could. He didn't respond. Instead, he crossed the room and crouched in front of my chair, so close I could see the faint scar across his jaw, the dark stubble shadowing his skin. His eyes locked on mine, steady, unshakable. Grace. You need to trust me. I'll keep you safe. My throat tightened, tears burning at the corners of my eyes. No one had said those words to me in a long time. Not and meant them. I nodded, because my voice would break if I tried to speak. His gaze lingered a second longer, then he stood and returned to his post by the window. Like nothing had happened. Like my world hadn't tilted just from his promise. I tried to sleep that night, but the memory of that growl haunted me. And the memory of Logan's eyes dark, burning, almost, inhuman haunted me even more. Chapter 3. By sunrise, my apartment didn't feel like mine anymore. Logan was still there, standing at the window with the same rigid posture, scanning the street like a sentinel carved out of stone. The pale light made him look even more unshakable. Meanwhile, I sat hunched on the edge of the couch with a blanket around my shoulders, too wired to have slept more than an hour. When his phone buzzed, I flinched. He glanced at the screen, muttered something under his breath, and then turned to me. You can't stay here. The words were simple, but final. I tightened the blanket around myself. Excuse me. Your locks are flimsy, your hallway is exposed, and whoever's watching you already knows where you live. Last night proved that. My stomach flipped. So what do you suggest? That I just pack a bag and run? Not run, he said, calm but firm. Relocate. With me. My mouth went dry. With you. His gaze didn't waver. Until this is over, yes. I laughed, but it came out shaky, almost hysterical. You've known me less than 24 hours and you want me to move in with you? That's safer than staying here. His voice cut through my panic like a blade. Grace, this isn't a suggestion. If you want me to protect you, you need to trust my judgment. That means coming with me. I stared at him, heart racing. Everything about him screamed control. Measured, certain, immovable. I hated that it also made a dark, shameful part of me want to lean into that certainty. To stop making choices. To let someone else carry the weight. Finally, I whispered, I don't even know you. Something flickered across his face, almost regret. Then I guess it's time you do. Packing took minutes. My life was small, reduced to 2 duffel bags and a laptop. I kept glancing at the windows, half expecting to see a shadow standing outside, watching. Logan carried my bags without effort, scanning every corner of the hallway as we left. His vehicle was parked at the curb, a black SUV that looked like it belonged in a government convoy. The windows were tinted so dark I couldn't see inside until he opened the passenger door for me. The moment I slid in, I realized the SUV smelled faintly of him, leather, pine, and something darker, warmer, almost animal. My stomach clenched. Logan got behind the wheel, and for a while, silence filled the car. His hands gripped the steering wheel, veins taut against skin, every inch of him coiled in focus. Finally, I asked, where are we going? My place. And where's that? Outside the city. Remote. Secure. Of course. Remote. Secure. Everything my apartment wasn't. The highway unspooled before us, cityscape giving way to fields, then forests. My nerves started to fray. You live out here? Alone? Yes. That's convenient, I muttered, unable to stop the bite in my tone. What kind of security guy chooses to live in the middle of nowhere? His eyes cut to me for the first time since we left. They were sharp, but unreadable. The kind who doesn't like being watched. The way he said it sent a chill through me. We finally turned onto a narrow road that wound into thick forest. At the end stood a cabin, larger than mine, but still secluded. The exterior was modern but rugged, glass windows facing the trees, a wide porch, a steel-reinforced door. It was the kind of place you couldn't stumble on by accident. This is home. I asked as he unloaded my bags. For now, it's yours too. Inside, the cabin was immaculate. Minimal furniture. A stone fireplace. Weapons mounted with military precision on the wall. It felt less like a home and more like a fortress. I stood awkwardly in the center of the living room while Logan carried my bags upstairs. When he returned, he found me tracing my fingers along the frame of a photo on the mantel. It showed a younger Logan in uniform, arms slung around another man, both of them smiling. Logan reached past me and turned the photo face down. Old life, he said simply. I didn't push. Not yet. Instead, I asked, so what now? Now you settle in. And I keep watch. I crossed my arms. You make it sound like I'm a prisoner. His jaw flexed. You're not a prisoner. You're under protection. Big difference. But standing there in his fortress of a home, with him watching me like a hawk, I wasn't so sure. That night, the woods pressed close against the glass windows. Every creak of the house, every rustle of branches, sent my pulse racing. Logan sat near the fire, silent, flipping through a file I hadn't seen him bring in. What's that? I asked. Background, he said without looking up. On me. On your stalker. His tone darkened. Your case isn't random. His escalating. The notes. The texts. Showing up outside your door. This is leading somewhere, Grace. And I intend to stop it before he gets there. The fire popped. I swallowed hard. You sound like you've done this before. His eyes lifted, catching the firelight. For a moment, they seemed to gleam gold. I have. I wanted to ask more, but something in his expression stopped me. Like he was guarding a truth I wasn't ready to hear. So instead I whispered, thank you. For Being here. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded once. Sleep, Grace. I'll keep watch. I turned toward the stairs, but not before glancing back. Logan was still by the fire, body relaxed but coiled, his eyes on the windows, the woods, the dark beyond. And for the first time in weeks, I felt a strange, fragile thing settle in my chest. Not just safety. Trust. Chapter 4. The cabin was supposed to be safe. But by the third night, I knew safety was an illusion. It started small. A branch snapping outside the window. The flicker of a shadow across the glass. I told myself it was the forest. Animals. Wind. But the feeling never left. That prickling sense between my shoulder blades, the crawling heat under my skin, the weight of eyes on me when I crossed a room. And Logan knew it too. He never said the words, but I could tell in the way his posture shifted, the way his hand stayed closer to the weapon holstered at his side. He knew. That night, I couldn't sleep. I padded downstairs in thick socks, the floor cool beneath my feet. Logan was exactly where I expected him, at the window, the fire behind him, shadows painting his face sharp. You don't sleep, do you? I whispered. His gaze flicked to me, then back to the glass. When I need to. That's not an answer. A faint smile touched his mouth, the first I'd seen all day. No. It's not. I came closer, hugging my arms around myself. The firelight made the room feel warmer than it was, but being near him made me warmer still. Do you think he found us? I asked, my voice low, almost guilty, like if I said it too loudly it might come true. Logan didn't look at me, but his jaw tightened. I think whoever's after you is more determined than we thought. The bottom dropped out of my stomach. So, what? I'm not safe even here. His eyes finally turned to me, sharp, steady. Grace. Safety doesn't come from a place. It comes from people. From the ones who'll fight for you. And you're not alone in this fight anymore. The words landed like a weight and a lifeline all at once. Before I could respond, the sound came. A scrape across the porch. Logan's head snapped toward the door. His whole body shifted, tense, alert, dangerous. He moved silently to the wall, motioning me back with one sharp glance. My breath caught in my throat. My hands trembled as I pressed against the staircase, heart hammering. Another scrape. Closer. Followed by a thud. Something, or someone, was out there. Logan reached for the door handle with controlled precision, then yanked it open in one swift motion, his gun raised. Cold air blasted in, along with silence. The porch was empty. But the wood was scarred. Long, fresh gouges across the boards like claws. I gasped, clapping a hand over my mouth. What could do that? Logan didn't answer. His eyes scanned the darkness, every muscle taut. For a moment, I thought I heard it again, low, almost inaudible. A growl. He shut the door and locked it, his expression unreadable. But his eyes burned when they landed on me. Upstairs. Now. I wanted to argue, to demand answers, but the authority in his tone rooted me in place. My body obeyed even when my brain spun with panic. I paced my borrowed room, waiting for him to come back. When he finally did, his face was shadowed, tension rolling off him in waves. He leaned against the door frame, arms crossed, looking too big for the space. Grace, he said quietly. I need you to be honest with me. Before this started, before the texts and the notes, did you notice anything else strange? Anything unusual? My chest tightened. I thought of the first message, the first time I felt eyes on me, the first night I woke to scratching at my window. And the growl. That impossible, animal sound that haunted me even now. My throat closed. Yes. But it doesn't make sense. It wasn't just him. It was like something else was there. Something not human. His eyes locked on mine, searching. For a heartbeat, I swore they glinted amber, like the reflection of a predator's gaze in the dark. Then he looked away. Get some rest. I'll handle it. Logan. My voice cracked. Please. I can't keep pretending I'm imagining this. Tell me the truth. His jaw clenched. For a moment, I thought he would finally say it. Instead, he exhaled slowly, stepped into the room, and closed the door behind him. The space shrank instantly with his presence, his shoulders nearly brushing the frame. He leaned closer, his voice low and rough. The truth is, Grace, I'll protect you. No matter what's out there. No matter what it takes. Something inside me melted and twisted all at once. Because the way he said it wasn't just a promise. It was a vow. And it terrified me how much I wanted to believe him. Later that night, as the fire downstairs died and the forest outside grew louder with unseen life, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. Sleep never came. Because the scrape of claws on the porch replayed in my mind. And because when I closed my eyes, all I could see were Logan's, burning with a heat no human should have. Chapter 5. The fifth night at the cabin was the one that shattered everything. I woke to the sound of glass breaking. For a moment, I thought it was a dream. But then I heard Logan's voice, low and commanding from downstairs, "Stay back." My heart lurched. I scrambled from the bed, feet cold on the floorboards, hands shaking as I pressed against the door. Then came the growl. Not muffled this time. Not distant. Inside. It reverberated through the walls, through my body, a sound so primal my blood froze. It was too deep, too wild to belong to any man. I cracked the door open just enough to see the flicker of light from the fireplace below. Shadows moved, Logan's broad frame, steady and lethal, facing off against something I couldn't see clearly. Grace. His voice snapped through the air like a whip. Stay upstairs. Do not come down. But I couldn't listen. My legs carried me down the stairs, knees trembling, until the room came into view. That's when I saw it. A man stood in the living room, or what looked like a man. His face was half hidden, eyes gleaming unnaturally in the firelight, his smile stretched too wide. And behind him, etched into the snow tracked through the open door, were claw marks. The man's voice was mocking, sing-song. You think you can hide her from me, Logan? The way he said his name made my stomach drop. He knew him. Logan stepped forward, shielding me with his body without even glancing back. His voice was low, guttural. You're not getting near her. The intruder laughed, and the sound was wrong. Like two voices laid together. Human and not. I stumbled back against the stairs, chest heaving. Logan, what is he? Neither of them looked at me. The intruder moved too fast, lunging forward with a feral snarl. Logan shoved me back, catching the man mid-strike. The two collided with a force that rattled the windows. Furniture toppled. The fireplace hissed sparks. I screamed as they grappled, too fast, too brutal to be human. Logan's hands slammed the man against the wall, but the stranger twisted free, claws raking across Logan's arm. Yes, claws. My vision blurred, disbelief crashing over me. The intruder's hand wasn't a hand anymore. It was twisted, taloned, too long and too sharp. Logan growled. Not shouted. Not grunted. Growled. The sound shook me to my core. For one heart-stopping second, his eyes met mine. They burned gold. Bright, blazing, inhuman gold. Then he drove the intruder through the broken door and out into the snow. The night erupted with snarls and crashes. Wood splintered. Snow churned. My hands clamped over my ears, tears streaking hot down my face. I wanted to run, but my body wouldn't move. Minutes, or maybe seconds, passed before silence fell. The door creaked. Logan staggered back inside, blood streaking his arm, chest heaving. His eyes were still glowing faintly, his teeth bared like an animal's. I pressed myself against the wall, shaking. Logan, what are you? The question hung between us like a blade. He froze, breath ragged, golden eyes locked on me. For a moment, he looked like he might answer. Like the truth was clawing its way to the surface. Then, with visible effort, the glow dimmed from his gaze. His shoulders slumped, his jaw clenched. Not now, he said hoarsely. All you need to know is you're safe. Safe. The word felt hollow, echoing in my chest. Because nothing about what I'd just seen was safe. And nothing about Logan Hale was human. Later, after he'd boarded up the door and cleaned the blood from his arm, he found me sitting at the kitchen table, still shaking. He poured me a glass of water and set it in front of me, but I couldn't bring myself to drink. My voice cracked when I finally spoke. You knew this would happen, didn't you? His silence was answer enough. I gripped the glass so hard my knuckles whitened. All this time, I thought I was going crazy. The growls, the scratches, the feeling of being watched. But it's real. And you, my throat tightened. You're not what you seem either. His jaw worked. His eyes met mine, dark and unreadable. I told you I'd protect you, he said quietly. That hasn't changed. But it had. Everything had. Because now, every time I looked at him, I couldn't stop seeing the truth. Not just the protector. The beast inside him. Chapter 6. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw it. The claws ripping through wood, the golden blaze of Logan's eyes, the animal growl tearing from his throat. The man I'd let into my home. The man I'd trusted to keep me safe. The man who wasn't a man at all. By dawn, I was still at the kitchen table, fingers wrapped around a cold cup of coffee I hadn't touched. Logan stood by the boarded-up door, his posture tight, his shirt blood-stained at the sleeve where claws had ripped into him. He hadn't said a word to me since the fight. Finally, the silence snapped. You owe me the truth, I said, my voice hoarse. His head lifted. His eyes, still dark now, but I knew what they could become, met mine. I know, he said quietly. I stood, heart pounding. No more half answers. No more protecting me with lies. What are you, Logan? What was that thing last night? And don't tell me I imagined it, because I didn't. He exhaled, long and heavy, as though the weight of years pressed against his lungs. Then he stepped closer, his presence filling the room, his voice low and steady. I'm not human. Not entirely. My throat tightened. Then what are you? His gaze held mine, unwavering. A wolf. A shifter. My kind has lived in the shadows for generations, protecting our own. Some of us protect others too. I swayed, clutching the counter to steady myself. So the growls, the scratches, the man who broke in, he was like you. His jaw clenched. Not like me. A rogue. A wolf who's given up control. He fixated on you. And once a rogue sets his sights, he shook his head. They don't stop. Cold dread slid through me. So this stalker, it was never just a man. It was one of you. Yes. The room spun. All this time, I'd thought I was losing my mind. But the truth was worse. Far worse. And you. My voice cracked. Were you protecting me because it's your job, or because you're one of them? His silence burned like an answer. I turned away, tears hot in my eyes. I trusted you. I let you in. And all this time, you were hiding this from me. In a heartbeat, he was closer. I felt the heat of him at my back, the restrained power under his skin. His voice was rough, raw. I hid it because I didn't want you to see me as a monster. Because the moment you knew the truth, I knew you'd look at me like you are right now. My chest ached. I wanted to run from him, but I also wanted to lean back into him, to let him wrap those arms around me and promise again that I was safe. Before I could respond, the sound came. A howl. Low, echoing, carried on the wind from the forest outside. Logan's body went rigid. His back, he said. My pulse spiked. Then we have to run. No, his voice cut through the air like steel. We end this. Tonight. The final fight came fast. The rogue broke through the tree line just after sundown, his body twisted, half-shifted, claws glinting in the last light. His eyes burned feral red, fixed on me like prey. Logan shoved me behind him, his voice a growl already. Stay back. Then his body rippled, bones shifting, muscles tearing, his form breaking and rebuilding in a violent rush. I gasped, stumbling back as his skin gave way to fur, his frame stretching larger, darker, wilder. In seconds, Logan was gone. In his place stood a massive wolf. Not just any wolf, towering, powerful, golden eyes burning through the night. My breath caught. Even in terror, I couldn't look away. He launched at the rogue with a roar, the two colliding in a storm of claws and teeth. Snow flew. The ground shook. The sound of their battle was primal, brutal. I screamed his name, but my voice was lost in the chaos. They tore at each other, the rogue feral and vicious, Logan controlled but unstoppable. For every slash that landed on him, he gave one back harder. For every snarl, he answered with one that shook the trees. Finally, with one brutal strike, Logan drove the rogue to the ground. His jaws closed on the other's throat, and the forest went silent. The rogue's body stilled. Logan stood over him, chest heaving, fur matted with blood, eyes blazing gold. Then, slowly, painfully, his body shifted back. Bones cracked, skin reformed, and in moments he was kneeling in the snow, human again, bare-chested, bruised, but alive. His eyes lifted to me. And in them, I didn't see the monster. I saw the man. The protector. The one who'd risked everything to keep me safe. I rushed to him, dropping to my knees, my hands on his shoulders, trembling. "You're insane," I whispered, tears streaking down my face. Insane, reckless, impossible. And then I kissed him. His mouth was hot, desperate, tasting of smoke and blood and everything we'd survived. His hands cupped my face, rough and trembling, as though he couldn't believe I was real. When we finally broke apart, my forehead rested against his, my breath mingling with his ragged one. "You're not a monster," I whispered. "You never were." His eyes searched mine, raw and unguarded. "Grace. I trusted you before I knew the truth," I said, voice shaking but sure. "And I still trust you now." For the first time since I'd met him, Logan Hale let himself smile. And for the first time since the nightmare began, I knew, truly knew, that I was safe. Not because the threat was gone, but because he was here. My protector. My bodyguard. My wolf. And that is where Grace and Logan's story begins, not where it ends. Because sometimes safety isn't a locked door or a hidden cabin. Sometimes it's the arms of someone who sees every broken, frightened piece of you, and chooses to protect you anyway. Logan wasn't just her bodyguard. He was her secret, her danger, her impossible choice, and the one man who would bleed, fight, and even unleash the beast inside him just to keep her alive. If you felt your heart race with Grace's, if you ached every time Logan's eyes burned with a truth he couldn't share, then you know exactly why we tell stories like this. Here on Sharon Feral Fantasies, every tale is made to pull you in, hold you tight, and keep you listening long into the night. Stories of forbidden love, dangerous secrets, and the kind of devotion that borders on wild. Sparkles, if you enjoyed The Protective Bodyguard, make sure to asterisk like this video, share it with someone who loves a little danger in their romance, and subscribe so you don't miss the next story waiting to claim your heart. And before you go, tell me in the comments, would you trust Logan, even after seeing the beast inside him? Thought balloon. Because here at Sharon Feral Fantasies, the line between fear and desire is where the best stories live.